Welcome back to Ozark Garden Talk. I'm Sarah.
I'm Charity.
And I'm Alex.
And it is late winter in the Ozarks, and I feel like every year we get a fake out. At least one, probably multiple.
Yes.
But the winter warms up to like 70, and we're wearing short sleeves, and then it goes right back down. You know, it gives us enough time to get comfortable in that warmth, and then it us and the plants, it feels like, and then it snaps right back down. I think we're at 65-ish yesterday, and then this weekend we're going to have 21. So it'll repeat this cycle, I think, probably a couple more times. But we start getting phone calls, people concerned about things budding, and people wanting to do things, you know, seeing what they can do this time of year. So I thought it would be kind of a good opportunity to go over like do's and don'ts, and when to worry and when not to, and what we can do this time of year safely, without harming, you know, what our efforts are, you know. So I kind of thought we'd start with the do's. What kind of things do you guys like to do this time of year?
So I, like everybody else, the sunshine got me kind of excited, and I will admit I did plant some stuff yesterday, but you know, I planted shallots, I planted elephant garlic. They are very cold hardy. They're actually often planted in fall, but you can also plant them through the winter into early spring. You know, there's a lot of things you can do right now. It's just not getting overly enthusiastic.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that are best planted this time of year, like strawberries, bare root strawberries, right?
Yes.
That's right. And even, you know, things like broccoli, cabbage, kale. Some of the biggest problems we have with these are the pests, the cabbage loopers, which really don't become too much of an issue until it warms up a little bit. So finding that right balance of planting early enough, but not too early. I mean, all those cold crops, broccoli, cabbage, kale, they can take it down to 25-ish. You know, in addition to things like that, the onions, a lot of the bare root stuff, fantastic this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, they're under the ground.
That's right.
And that's where they're going to do, they're rooting in and growing. So there's not a lot of top growth right now on even onions. Even the little onion starts we have with the greens on them, the greens are not affected by even a freeze, like a hard freeze. They'll come back from that. The same with potatoes, which it's a little early for potatoes, but you know, usually our potatoes in this part of the world do come up and get hit by a freeze, so the greens die back to the ground and they just restart. So most years that's totally not even a problem. The other thing with the cold crops is knowing your days of maturity. So by looking at the plant tags or your seed packet tags, I mean, we just don't have enough cold to wait. So for broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, all those things, we need to get them in now and do that little extra protection, just to coverage if we have some extra frost. Yeah.
And, you know, this is kind of an important thing to talk about, too, I feel like. When you're covering, you know, use something breathable. Use a sheet. Don't get out the plastic, you know, painter's plastic. This causes a lot of problems. Also, even with the sheet or whatever, I mean, basically where it is touching the plant, you're still going to get burned. So you want to kind of keep that tinted up over the plants themselves.
Yeah, you got to make a structure to put the sheet, or you can use plastic. You just have to be prepared to get it opened back up before the sun comes out.
So you don't cook everything. The Ozarks give us enough of a temperature whipsaw. We don't need to cover stuff in clear plastic and have it be 20 at night and then 110 during the day.
While you're at work.
Exactly.
All day.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do this time of year is just weeding, getting my beds prepared and weeding. It seems like that freeze-thaw cycle through the winter has loosened everything up good enough to where I can actually get in there and get the roots pulled out really well. So that's kind of my early season time to at least be more effective. It
Yeah,
seems like
definitely helps.
getting those roots out of there.
Yep. And, while you can plant some select things, really this is a great month for planning,
Yeah.
watching where the sun is, kind of paying attention. Also, do a soil test. It's a great
Good idea.
great time of year to amend your soil. Certain things like lime take some time to change the pH. So, and also, if you wait until the busiest part of spring, it's going to take you a lot longer to get your soil test back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It can
get
take
your
a couple of
results.
weeks. And so they have to mail them all to Mariana. So, do it now. Get out ahead of that. Get your beds ready for all that stuff. Do not, where you're planning on planting tomatoes, don't even think about it yet, but get that soil right.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the soil test can be done for free through the University of Arkansas Extension Service, and they do have instructions on their website. We can probably link to those in our show notes on how to do that properly, so you're getting a good read for what you're trying to plant. But it is a free service, and it's across the state. So all counties have that available to them. Another thing for prepping, if maybe your garden bed is fairly good to go with you don't need to adjust lime or pH and things like that, but just want to help the soil out. Of course, weeding to start reducing the weed competition, but just a general good thing to do is to top dress with a compost right now, and then put a mulch layer over that and just let it be, because those soil microbes are going to come, earthworms, all the things that are helping out your plants grow are going to come and incorporate all that material. Like, you literally don't even have to do anything except spread the compost over the top.
Yep.
And walk away, because that is going to allow the soil structure to remain healthy. So it's not necessarily good to till it and to flip it and work it all in. The little bugs in the soil are going to do the work for you, so why not be a little lazy and just put it out there?
Well, and the spring rains will help kind of move that
All
through
of
the
it.
soil. So,
And I totally agree with that. I feel like you're pretty safe with most of the putting organic material in the soil. You're pretty much good to go. I do think people sometimes mess up by just putting out chemical fertilizers, the synthetic fertilizers.
that's what we don't want to do.
When you do that without soil testing, often you're throwing money away. Also, at this time of year, you don't want to encourage too much tender growth, so hold off on that. When you're using stuff like you were talking about, the plant is really able to take up what it needs kind of on its own schedule. Kind of like I was thinking about that when you were talking about the root crops. When you plant them now, they know. They're growing based on soil temperature, so they're going to kind of do what they need to do when they need to do it. And, I feel like that's much better than trying to force the issue.
Right, yeah. And another thing on adding the fertilizer in an established bed with, say, a landscape bed, an ornamental bed, you've got plants there already. You can still do the top dress of compost and going over with mulch. That's going to help reduce the weed pressure too later on. But yes, like you're saying, timing the fertilizer for that plant to not create don't make your roses go crazy in this 70 degree and then get just knocked way back.
Yep.
I was thinking, as we were talking, more of a vegetable bed, something where you're or even just a annual flower bed where you clean it out completely, excuse me, and then top dressing that. There is really no need, if you don't have plants in a bed, to put in fertilizer at this point.
Agreed.
No.
The fertilizer is the food for the plant roots. If you don't have your vegetables or your bedding, like your pansies, in already, then you're not feeding anything. You are just wasting and basically going to be fertilizing the weeds at this point.
Yeah.
So why don't do it? Yeah, just save that for the appropriate time.
Right. And with the compost, you are getting a benefit because you're improving the soil structure, you're feeding the soil microbes, you're getting it all kind of alive and happy and ready to go.
Yep.
Another thing that I was thinking about was, this is the time of year for pruning. So, what kind of
Some things.
Some things, yeah. Do's and don'ts on that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, the general rule of thumb is things that bloom in the spring, you do not want to prune right now. So forsythia, quince, all that early blooming stuff, all those buds are already set. And if you prune now, you're going to be cutting a lot of the flowers off. However, summer blooming things, fruit trees,
Yes. Well, and I was going to say, just put in a note, because spireas, often it's a good time to prune if you have the summer bloomers, because spireas are very sticky. They have all the little tiny sticks, and so if you clean them up now, as they flush out their leaf growth, it'll cover any other debris that's in there. But there are spring blooming. I have some spring blooming spirea, and so if I were to go clean up too much, I would be messing up my bloom period. And then, fruit trees was on my list too. It is time. It's getting, because of this warm up, we're getting into that, oh gosh, but my trees, my apples and pears, which is what I have, are still tightly dormant. There's nothing showing because I don't have early blooming trees, but we're getting close to the end of that window. Definitely by the end of February, if you don't have it done, it's probably most of the time best to just wait and do it later.
With the exception of damaged branches, crossing branches, some of that stuff. I mean, you kind of want to remove that when you see it for the most part. But I was telling them this morning I have a fruit tree in my front yard that's starting to flower, and there will be no fruit this year, most likely. So.
And what kind of tree is that, Alex?
I did not plant it. Do not judge me. It is a peach tree, yes.
Yeah. Early blooms. That's one of the reasons we don't carry them anymore, because it's hard to maintain them in our part of the world, and they bloom first, so they get hit by frost most years.
Yeah, that's just one of the reasons. There's we could name a few, but
they are beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
You might get to enjoy the blooms before they freeze.
I'm hoping I'll have a few days of
an
pink
ornamental
flowers.
peach.
they are
Beautiful.
beautiful.
They are.
When they're
That thing
blooming.
held its leaves way into the winter too.
Really?
I was very surprised. Yeah, it's been a nice ornamental tree for the front yard, honestly.
Well,
and that's how I see it. It's an ornamental. If
tree.
I one day get a peach, that will be a bonus. So.
Yeah.
Well, another thing we can do right now is plant seeds indoors. Indoors. So I don't do a lot of this. Some years I do more than others. I typically just get starts for some things, but I have started seeds indoors a little bit, but just kind of looking at the seed packets and seeing, moving back from our average last frost date, which this year I think is, what was it, like April 9th or 10th? It got moved up a little bit.
They don't know.
Well, yes, that's true. And you've got to know our soil temperature is not going to be warm enough for those cold or warm season crops until close to May.
That's right.
Moving back however many days the seed packet says to then start might be a little early for some of that stuff.
A lot of the warm season stuff. So we used to actually grow a fair amount of tomatoes here at the nursery from seed. We don't do that so much anymore. We buy from some local growers who are very good at it. But when I did tomatoes, I would normally start them in mid-March. I would wait because I feel like a pretty common mistake, specifically with tomato seed starting, is doing it too early, and then they get really lanky.
Yeah.
And we would also do them under big heavy duty grow lights, and I would put those things right down on them. I mean, like an inch or two away, and move it up as the plant grew, because what you don't want is yellow floppy transplants.
Especially if you're trying to sell them.
Well,
you can use them at home, but
but ideally, even in the home environment, you want a nice stocky good green plant to start with. Peppers you actually can start a little earlier with a heat mat, but for the most part right now, and when we're having this discussion mid-February, you're still talking about a lot of the kind of cooler season stuff, or things that can tolerate some pretty cold weather.
Right. And things like spinach, lettuce, that kind of thing. We're still a little bit too early for all of that as well. You might be able to, and we'd almost be direct sowing that. I
Yeah.
like to direct sow that kind of stuff.
Generally recommend direct sowing that when somebody asks me, just because the plant is going to do fine direct sown. Well, spinach is questionable. It is a tricky seed to get going, and some years are good and some years are not. I don't even, yeah.
I was just thinking that. I feel like that's the case with a lot of the cold crops, just because, like you alluded to, we have such a kind of a narrow window and we never really know how narrow it's going to be. So there's kind of good broccoli years and bad broccoli years is the way that
That's
I think
true.
about it. So
Yes. Well, what about some don'ts? I think we've touched on quite a few of them, but yeah, just what are some things we always get calls for people that are we can I put my tomatoes out yet? When we get like a 2-week span or something of 70-degree temperatures, I feel like.
did we get any calls in the past couple of days for tomatoes? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's happened already. So yeah, and peppers. So the warm crops, I mean, the sun is so enticing, and if it's a very normal thing to want to grow tomatoes and peppers. Those are like kind of the easy things. People think of they're going to eat them, so they want them in their garden. But yes, and I've actually had several inquiries about sweet potatoes already this
me
year.
too.
Right.
So all of those are like, we need to be hot almost. We need to be, 1st of May is really the earliest for setting them out in the ground, in the garden.
Right.
You can start them by seed, like we mentioned. But
And, every year we have people that will buy them considerably earlier than that. And it's a roll of the dice. Sometimes we do get lucky. Sometimes the last frost is much earlier. Sometimes the soil warms up faster, but it's a roll of the dice and you need to know that.
tomatoes need 50 degrees,
Yeah,
right?
it needs to
if
be
it's
warm.
below 50 degrees, the plant is just sitting there, not really growing for you anyway.
And in fact, it can actually stunt them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Less fruit production too.
it may be the case you get out there, you cover that tomato, you keep it alive through some, chilly temperatures, but you are not going to have as good a production if you just waited a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So,
And one of the ways that some of our customers do, they have greenhouses or, the ability
Right.
to keep things indoors
Yes.
if necessary. So you can get a 6-pack of tomatoes a bit earlier.
pot them up.
Pot them so that the root system is much larger. So you're kind of like pre-growing them into a larger plant to set out that first week of May. If you have the luxury of all that sunny room that's non-freezing, in your garage or your house or a small greenhouse outside. But
Somebody was telling me recently, and I'm curious if you guys have ever heard this, they were saying that they like to start their potatoes early, like sprout them inside before they put them out. And I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody who, they're
Gardens
a
a lot.
legit gardener. Yeah.
In soil?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
that
don't
sounds
know.
like a lot of work.
Yeah.
The potato's going to grow. Let the
yeah.
potato be a potato.
And part of the fun of planting potatoes is you kind of put them in there and walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like one of the easiest things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was just.
People get eager. They get
Yeah.
That's
eager
right.
and they just want something to
It
do
is.
when
It
it's
is. Yeah.
when it does turn cold again, and they're stuck inside. It's kind of fun to have something to watch.
I think another don't that I wanted to talk about was, and I'm sure many of our customers and listeners have heard the whole Leave the Leaves campaign.
Yes.
But in addressing that, on the native plant, native garden side of things, it is very important to leave the leaves and actually, typically this time of year, like right now in the next 3 to 4 weeks would be the time to cut down your grasses, your ornamental grasses, to, get the old dead stuff out of the way so that as the new blades start emerging, you don't have that problem later on where everything's mixed together and you really can't prune it. So, but our native grasses, if you have a native garden, and stems of our different flowers are going to be hosting insect larvae, which is a good thing because, once again, I'm going to go over it. If we don't have caterpillars, we don't have birds and frogs and turtles, and so we need our bugs in the garden. And right now, all of those dead stems are hosting, and the leaves in the ground have chrysalis and cocoons of some of our native butterflies and moths. So if you need to clean up, which it feels like time, with the sun shining, please don't shred your leaves. Just blow them or move them into a corner of your yard or into your compost. It won't hurt them. Let them be. And as far as trimming things, if you do need to trim down your grasses or even your other stems, black-eyed Susans, goldenrod, even, any of those native plants, again, don't shred them. Just leave them in a pile. And what I'm seeing, the common recommendation is our nights need to be close to 50 degrees consistently, that's going to put us into late April.
Yeah.
So
April.
that seems like it's a long time to be messy in the yard. So, the solution would be to clean up and just pile it in the back corner or somewhere and let it be. Then those insects will have time to emerge and get out of that, and then it composts down and makes wonderful soil for you. But also you could then, if you wanted to reduce the volume, you could shred and do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Plus, I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm lucky enough, I do have kind of a brush pile, kind of a wide area or wild area in the back corner. I love a good brush pile. It makes habitat for all kinds of stuff. I mean,
you will see
rabbits
birds all in it too.
Exactly. So I know not everybody can do this, but if you can, it's a great way to do it. Because I personally, I will admit, and you guys know this about me, it does drive me kind of crazy at a certain point, just having kind of the messy look. And so I left everything up until yesterday, and then I started trimming stuff out and, transporting it back to that brush pile. I'm not running over it with the mower. I'm not doing all that, which, that's better than, I guess, bagging it up and throwing it away. But
that's another point. Like, that material can stay in your yard. It's actually nutritious for the soil. I know it's hard for me, but I'm trying. So if you leave this stuff on your property somewhere, even if it doesn't, the media area that it's growing, why do we do this? Why do we take all the nutrition that nature gives us and pull it away and then come to a store and buy a package of synthetic stuff to put down to fertilize? It's all there in the system.
Yesterday, I was having this exact discussion in my backyard. We were cleaning up some raised beds. A friend came over, and she started basically cutting some stuff off, and she was like, "What do you want me to do with this?" She was about to carry it off to the compost pile. And I said, "No, just leave it there. I'm adding soil to this bed." So I like to kind of chop it up a little bit, and I'm talking about like a melted big kale plant and collards and things like that. So I like to cut them off at ground level, chop them up a little bit so they're a little more uniform, spread them out on the soil surface, put another layer of soil on top of them. That stuff will be gone in no time, and all the nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and micronutrients that were pulled out of the soil to grow that will go back into the soil.
Perfect. Also, what you're talking about, you're cutting off at the soil level.
Right.
So
Instead
they've
of pulling.
also proven that the root systems decaying in the ground is returning that nitrogen, and the microbes get to stay in that network right there. So
and allowing things to move through the soil better, because those roots, as they decay, are leaving these kind of capillaries through the soil where the moisture can move through. And
we work so hard against ourselves, like all the time. I mean, and it's conventional. We're doing it the way we think it's supposed to be done, but actually nature kind of does all of it for us.
It knows what it's doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
One more thing on the weeding, which I do think it's a wonderful time to weed, and this is my favorite time of year to weed too. I was reading about native bees. Some of our native bees are ground dwelling. And so sometimes there can be so this is not like ground hornets that are going to attack you. That's not what I'm talking about. Like some of our little tiny bees, some of the bumblebee types will be in the ground. So, and I can't tell you what it looks like because I don't know exactly, but sometimes you can see holes in the ground, in the soil. And so I have seen some advice to like kind of mark those areas and don't weed a whole bunch in that area to disturb those the baby bees are in there that can come out. And our native bees do so much for pollination. They definitely don't get the press they need compared to butterflies and honeybees, which are non-native, by the way. But the ground dwelling bees basically can be disrupted and exposed, as we weed.
Right.
And so then the temperatures can mess up their development. So I'm going to look into that more and try to learn how to identify the areas.
That's a good point to consider.
There's another reason to not weed.
if we need an excuse.
We're just going to sit back and drink our coffee.
Right.
I don't know. I just find it so therapeutic. It's just satisfying.
Yeah, it is.
Some stuff, yes. I don't know about you guys. I leave the oxalis, the small, like the wood sorrel.
Yeah.
I leave it in the bed. For one thing, it's a nitrogen fixing plant. Also, it doesn't tend to like outcompete the things that I'm growing in there. So
it's a green mulch.
yeah.
I like that.
I mean, my beds right now are covered in henbit and what's the other one? The same family, but I know. Shoot. Anyway, they look very similar.
Yeah.
Just lost the name of it. But, I've got basically living mulch right now. In a little while, it'll be annoying to me. But right now, I'm like, maybe there's some bees in there. I got to leave it.
It's a good excuse.
One other thing I'll throw out is every year we have a lot of people kind of panicking about bulbs coming up early. The daffodils came up. It's too early. Are they going to die? They're not going to die. They might get a little bit burnt. The tips might get a little burnt when we get cold. It might shorten the life of the bloom. It's not going to kill the plant. Every year, I mean, I do the same thing. I see them coming up and, early February when it's still cold and nasty. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. But they're fine. Nature knows what it's doing. It'll be okay. So.
They'll come back.
They will. Yeah, unless, the only thing I've seen that has hurt daffodils is if they get cut back. The greens get cut back too early. Yeah,
they need to recharge.
They need the greens to recharge for the next season before they start. So don't cut the greens off until they start to deteriorate on their own.
Maybe one of the other ones that I would go to the effort to protect the bloom of is hellebores. They are tough and they won't, the plant itself won't be harmed from it. It could get burned if it's a hard freeze. I don't even think 20s really hurt it, but like if it's extended period. But right now they're coming out and blooming in the ground. So if you do have some open petals and you just want to see the color a little bit longer, you could just put some buckets over it or something just to give it a little extra. But the plant itself will be fine. You might just not get as long of a bloom color.
I think kind of the overarching moral of the story this time of year is, yes, there are some things you can plant, but it's kind of limited.
Yeah.
Don't get overexcited, don't work against yourself here. And, even you can, buy the cabbage, buy the kale, get it in the ground, but be aware that you're going to have to cover if it gets down to 25, which is going to happen again. Like you said, we'll probably go through a few more cycles of this. And so we're getting very close. Take this time to look at your gardens, think about what you want to do, get your soil right.
Soil ready.
If you get your soil right, everything else is so much easier. So,
That's a good.
Be excited.
Some good words. Yeah, get your seeds together. Kind of make your sketches if you're doing it. I love graph paper.
I do
and
too.
imagine all the little sleeping insects out there that are going to wake up and help you in your garden.
Yeah, that's good thoughts. Well,
Almost
I
there.
think that's a good. I'm excited this time of year. It's the warm weather does at least boost the spirit.
Yes.
So
For sure.
Yes.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us.